Hi, I'm Manisha Arora. In this video, we will take an in-depth look at Enka run command. For those of you who are new to Enka, Enka is a technology platform built on top of native virtualization for macOS and provides container-like experience working with macOS VMs. Enka Build and Enka Run products together enable iOS and macOS developers to package their development environments in Enka VMs and then reproduce them at scale as isolated instances for CI or distribute them to other developer machines for local consistent development. The steps to get going with Enka are pretty straightforward. After you've installed Enka application package, create your macOS Enka VM. Then configure your application or project specific dependencies in that Enka VM. Unlike working with traditional virtual environments, Enka VM provides a container-like interface to execute commands inside the VM with Enka run command. After completing the dependency setup in your Enka VM, upload or push it to Enka registry and distribute it to other developers or use it for continuous integration process. Pull one or more Enka VM on developer machine and then again use the Enka run command to work with that VM. Let's take a deep dive into Enka run command. This command is very useful for macOS iOS developers working with Enka VMs. Enka Run is designed to make the developer experience of working with Enka Virtual Machine very efficient. You don't need to get inside the VM to execute actions. You can, from your developer machine command line terminal, interact and execute commands inside the Enka VM. Let's look at some examples of using Enka Run. Use it to install and prepare your application development environment inside the Enka VM. You can use it to install all your static and dynamic dependencies. In this video, we will take as an example installing Brew and CocoaPods to get our Enka VM ready for development. These are the two Enka VMs that I have on my machine, and this particular VM, Sierra V40C1, is the one I want to prepare as my build environment. So I'm going to use Enka Run first to install all my dependencies. In this case, we will install Brew and CocoaPods in this VM using Enka Run command. Let's take a look at Enka Run help, and you will see that there are a bunch of options available here to run the Enka Run command, and we will go through these later in our video. But first, let's take a quick look at this VM. This is a macOS Sierra VM, and Enka View VM name opens up the VM window. However, I don't have to work inside the VM in order to install dependencies. I can actually install all my dependencies, prepare the VM, and then further on interact with the VM for build and test, all from my development machine here using the Enka Run command. So let's close the VM window here. And as step one, we will first install Brew on this Enka VM. So I'm actually going to go to the Brew home site here, and I will use this install instruction. So I'm going to take this string, copy it, and now I want to run it inside my Enka VM because that's where I want to install the Brew in. So I'm going to type Enka run my VM name, and now if I just cut and paste that install script, this will not work. And this is because, as you will notice, this script actually defines an environment variable here with the $sign. Enka Run doesn't allow you to share environment variables between the host and the Enka VM. And this is done deliberately so that there's complete isolation between the Enka VMs running on a developer machine and the setup of the development machine. So in this case, what I will have to do is first take this string and output it, and I'm going to output it to an install.rb file. Basically what I'm doing is I'm eliminating the need for this environment variable definition here. So let's do that, and then now run the enka run command again. This is my VM name. Run the Ruby command, basically run it on this. You'll notice that this is actually now installing the Brew, and it is installing it in my Sierra V40 C1 VM. This is going to take some time, so let's wait for it to finish. Okay, the installation is complete now, and now I am going to install CocoaPods. The list, this is the VM on which I just installed Brew, and I'm now going to install CocoaPods. So I will do Enka run, VM name, sudo gem install CocoaPods. Now I'm using sudo because installation of CocoaPods requires system privileges, and you can see here that I can use sudo in Enka run to run these commands inside this Enka VM, and sudo can be run passwordless. So now I will start the installation of CocoaPods. So now it's actually, you'll see it'll take a few minutes, but it'll install CocoaPods inside my Sierra V40 C1 VM, and after that I have basically prepared the VM with all my dependencies, and it's ready to be used as a build and test environments for continuous integration, or or it can be downloaded by individual developers on their development machine and used as a local build and test environment. Take a look at how you can use the Enka run command to do build and test operations against the Enka VM. Imagine that you're working on an iOS project on your machine. You have downloaded a specific build environment from the Enka registry, and this is your Enka VM. Now, without going inside the Enka VM, you can execute make Xcode build commands from your developer machine with Enka run command. So let's take a look at some examples of this. So these are the Enka VMs that I downloaded from the registry, and this is the Enka VM that I want to use to do build and test, and I'm going to be using Enka run command from my terminal here to execute those operations in this particular Enka VM. When you use Enka run command to execute build, Xcode build, etc., it uses shared folder to enable working with local content inside the Enka VM. By default, it mounts the current working folder inside Enka VM. So let's quickly take a look at how that works. So right now, if I do ls-l, I'll see this is my current working folder on my machine, and it's under user Manisha Arora. Now I can do Enka run VM name, which is Sierra B40C1 ls-l, and this will implicitly mount my current working folder inside the Enka VM Sierra B40C1. However, you will notice here that it will actually change the user for this content to an Enka VM user so that we can do operations on this content from inside the Sierra V40 VM without running into any user right issues. Now you can also explicitly mount a specific folder with -w option. So if you do Enka run help, you can see here -w allows you to mount a specific working directory from your machine inside the Enka VM. Show you an example of how you would run builds and test inside the Enka VM using the Enka run command from your developer machine. So these are again my two Enka VMs, and I'm going to be running an Xcode build on Sierra V40C1. So first I will change to my specific iOS project that I want to run the build for, and then I will use Enka run VM name and my Xcode build command here. And this is a fairly large project, so the build might take a couple of minutes to complete. One thing to note here that so in this case you will see here, because I'm running it from inside this my project directory, Enka run will implicitly mount the contents of this directory, project directory, inside the Enka VM and execute the Xcode build on this particular project. So you can see now here I executed the build inside the Enka VM for my specific iOS project, and the build succeeded.